Hello, and welcome back to the Coachman. For today's reading, I got a really cool story that actually is from New Zealand and the lovely culture of the Maori. And it's Edith Howe's Tawhaki. And it doesn't look that way, but it is Tawhaki. I had to actually look that up, and it's a cool name. Might even name my kid that. But yeah, this is a really cool story, and I think many of us have seen it and heard it, but this is a very good tale that has a different ending, I guess you could say. Tawhaki, the prince, was so brave and handsome and did so many noble deeds that his fame went abroad throughout the land. At last, even the sky fairies heard of him. One of them said, "I wonder whether this earth prince is as brave and handsome as they say he will. I will go down to the earth to see." One summer morning, she descended to earth. Herself unseen, she watched Tawhaki, finding him even braver and more handsome than anyone had told her. Indeed, she was so pleased with him that she came out of her hiding place and made herself known to him. Sounds like a stalker to me. Each day, she came down to talk to him. He was glad and proud, for no earth princess was half as so beautiful. Besides, was she not a sky fairy? At last, these two became so fond of one another that they were married. The sky fairy left her home above the clouds and lived on the earth as Tawhaki's wife. Oh, sound like that snatch got him. Such a thing had never happened before. When the other sky fairies heard of it, they were exceedingly angry. "She belongs to us," they said. "She must come back." Honestly, this sounds like scenes that I've seen after a good night of drink drank and a bunch of ladies doing what we call cock blocking. But she refused to come. "I love Tawhaki," she said. "I will not leave him." They made up their minds to carry her off. So one day, they swooped down upon the island and carried her away before Tawhaki's very eyes. Been there and done that. Seen it happen. Oh well. She struggled with all their strength to free herself, while Tawhaki tried to hold her back and beat the sky fairies off. But the sky fairies were too powerful. They pushed Tawhaki aside and carried his wife away. "Sky fairies must not live on earth," they said. "You shall never return to Tawhaki." Yeah, that was a sad night for me at the bar. "Come to me then, Tawhaki. Come to me in the sky," she called, her voice growing fainter as she was borne out of his hearing. Gents, don't we wish that would happen to us all? Tawhaki stretched up despairing arms. What could he do? He had no means of following her, and yet the loneliness without her. For many sad and weary days he wandered hopelessly about, and unable to find a way of reaching her. He asked the eagles to carry him, but they replied that they could never reach the sky. He climbed mountain after mountain, but none was high enough. One morning, passing through the mountain land, he came upon an old woman sitting alone. An old, old woman she was. In her hand, she held a fine white spider thread. "Who are you?" asked Tawhaki. "I am called the old grandmother," she replied. "What are you doing in this lonely place?" "Holding this thread." Tawhaki's eyes followed the thread up. "Where is the other end?" he asked. "In the sky." Now, I don't know about you, but if I was this dude and some old lady just happened to have this thread, skinny thin, and I wanted to get to my missus, would I try to climb this piece? For all you dudes out there who are sitting there be like, nah, I wouldn't. Let's be real. After the club, we did everything we could to at least get them digits. Yeah? You get me? So let's see. "What is it for?" asked Tawhaki eagerly. The old woman eyed him steadily. If a man on earth wished to go to Skyland, he might climb this thread, she said. It would bear him, but he must be very brave, for if he once looked back or lost heart, he would fall and be dashed to pieces. I do not think any Earthman is brave enough to attempt the deed. To go get some draws, any dude would do anything. Try me, I will go, cried Tawhaki, his heart beating with joy. He guessed that this thread had been sent down by his wife, that he might go to her. Give me the thread, he said. The old grandmother was pleased at his courage, but she warned him of his dangers. It is such a tiny, slender thread, she said. One slip, one moment's loss of courage would dash you on these mountaintops. In other words, homeboy, if you slip, you are done. Like most cases. I shall not be afraid, said Tawhaki. My heart is too full of love to have room for fear. Listen, she said, I will teach you a charm. Sing it if you ever lose your strength. Sing it if your strength seems to be leaving you. By it, too, you can change yourself as you will. She sang the charm, and he repeated it until he knew it. Now you may go ahead, she said. Keep a brave heart. Remember, never look back, and if your strength fails, sing the charm. Grasping the spider thread, Tawhaki sprang from the earth and began his wonderful climb to Skyland. What a frail thread it was. It swayed and it swung with his weight, but it had faith in its magic power to hold him. He clung and climbed higher and even higher until he was level with the tops of the lower hills. Up still and higher yet. Now he was level with the highest mountains. Now he was above them. He was passing through Cloudland. What if the thread should break or come loose? He would not think of such accidents. His wife was at the top. Along with them yams on yams on yams. It was cold and wet in Cloudland, and he had been climbing for hours. His strength began to ebb. Then he remembered the charm and sang it with all his might as he passed through the great lonely spaces beneath the sky. Over and over again, he sang it, till weariness fled and strength returned. I don't know about y'all, but I'll tell you this. If that was me and I was climbing, the only song in my head would be It Take Two by Rob Bass. And if you don't know the tune, trust me, go play it real quick and then come back, and you'll know, oh, okay, that song will get me up there. Climbing now quickly and joyfully, he came to the first of the 10 Skylands. He pushed himself through the flooring, and it cracked in all directions. A deluge of water rushed through the hole. He sprang up and looked around. The water was overflowing from the edge of a lake in which sky fairies were bathing. In other words, my man went from a peeping Tom to a straight perv. That water will make a flood on Earth, he thought. It's also going to make you something else for you. But he did not stay to look back, nor even to watch the sky fairies. He knew his wife's home was not here, but on the 4th Skyland. He grasped the thread again and went on his way. Good for you, Holmes. When he reached the 2nd Skyland, he met a snake-shaped fish. Behind this fish crawled hundreds of smaller ones. Who are you? Tawhaki asked boldly. I am the Eel King, replied the fish. I am looking for water. Up here, we are parched and dry. How is it on Earth? Uncomfortably wet, I should say, for I have cracked the lowest Skyland and let the water through from the fairies' lake, said Tawhaki. Good, said the Eel King. The earth is the very place for us. Come, my children, to this delightful earth. Huh. That's a wicked sight. A snakefish. Would that just be like a fish that's really long? Or a really small snake that has fins? Just a question. On the third Skyland, Tawhaki met the Pukaki. Now, if you don't know, a Pukaki is actually two things. One, it actually means like a body, like a large body of water, and then with that, or no, a bunched up water. The funny thing about that is actually there is a Lake Pukaki in New Zealand, which is one of the four like biggest and most beautiful lakes in New Zealand. So it's kind of funny that they named the body of water after a bird. But I don't know. The bird stretched its long neck in astonishment at the sight of an Earthman. Where are you going? He asked. To the fourth Skyland, replied Tawhaki. What is the earth like just now? Was the bird's next question. Very wet. Flooded, in fact, said Tawhaki. You don't say so, cried the bird joyfully. Why, that is the kind of world I want. Here there is no swamp. I shall go down to the earth. Tell me, do the fairies know you are on your way to their land? No, said Tawhaki. I do not wish them to know that. Oh, indeed. Then I shall go give them warning. The mischievous bird raised his head to give a cry that would reach the fourth Skyland. Just in time, Tawhaki caught him by the nose, pinching it so hard that the Pukaki could make no sound. He pulled and he struggled to break loose, but Tawhaki held on. Now, if I were Tawhaki, I would have held on and, gave him my four knuckles and thumb laughing. Tawhaki said, will you promise to keep quiet if I let you go? A subdued droop of the bird's tail seemed to answer yes. So Tawhaki loosened his hold. The Pukaki fled down through the hole to the earth. Ever since that day, his nose has been red from Tawhaki's pinching, and all his children and children's children have been hatched with crimson noses. If that would have been me, I would have also gave him red hindtails from when I put my boot up that first Pukaki, yaya. Tawhaki climbed the fourth Skyland. Here, the thread ended. He looked about him. This Skyland was beautiful, clothed in green forest and decked with bright flowers. Through the trees, he saw the gleam of water. Listening, he heard the sound of voices. He crept quietly towards the voice. Near the lake, the fairies who had carried off his wife were making a canoe. If I follow these fairies, I shall find my wife, thought Tawhaki. But they must not know it's me, or they will send me down to earth again, and I will change. So hence I will change my form. He stole back into the forest and softly sang his charm. It takes two. By the time it was finished, he had the appearance of a poor, miserable old man. I ain't gonna lie. If he sings It Take Two, he's gonna be like a 6'2" black dude named Tyrone with like a thick dookie chain. No one would have recognized in him the handsome Tawhaki. He walked slowly towards the fairies. Look at that old man, said one. Where has he come from? Make him work, said another. He shall carry our axes home. They loaded Tawhaki with axes, and he followed them to their home. What would my people say if they could see their prince carrying tools like a servant, he thought. But it is for my wife's sake. For her, I will suffer anything. All right, we'll see. An idea came to him. He called to the fairies. Do not wait for me. I am old and cannot walk fast. I will follow slowly. Good move. The fairies went on. As soon as they were out of sight, Tawhaki changed himself to its old strength of limb. Running back to the canoe, he worked at it until one side was finished. My work is better than theirs, he said. They may be glad to learn from me. It was a good scheme. See where it goes. He ran through the forest till he almost reached the fairies. Then he returned to the form of the old man carrying the axes. At the fairy's home, he saw his wife. She sat sadly by herself, taking no interest in anything. She glanced at the old man following the fairies, but did not recognize him as Tawhaki. He dared not make himself known. I must first finish the canoe, he thought. Early the next morning, the fairies again set off for the forest, Tawhaki carrying their tools. When they reached the canoe, the fairies stood lost in astonishment. Who has been working at our canoe? It is half done, and so well done. Who can it be? If that was Tyrone, you know what I mean? That boat will be gone, probably because he just like pitch it and try to sell it. Nobody knew, and of course, nobody suspected the feeble old man. After talking a great deal about it and coming to no solution of the mystery, they set to work, chopping and addling all through the day. When the evening came, Tawhaki did exactly as he had done the night before. The next morning, the other side of their canoe was finished. Tonight, we will watch, they said. This was just what Tawhaki wished. When the evening came, he changed himself into the strong and handsome Tawhaki, knowing that the fairies were waiting in the forest to surprise him. They came rushing out from behind the trees. "We have found you at last, kind worker," they shouted. He turned his face to them, and they saw that he was Tawhaki. Now, normally, when you have a bunch of people that are trying to surprise somebody, I don't think they're going to take too kindly. I know a lot of people that when I see a group that surround one person, usually that's called an ass whooping. Others said, "Oh." Without a word, he set off at a run for his wife's home. The angry, puzzled fairies followed him. Some said, "He shall not stay. Send him back to earth," which is followed by a couple of bottles and maybe something else. Others said, "Let him stay. He can teach us the building of canoes. We can make a sky fairy of him, and his wife will then be happy." I don't understand that one, but oh well. They reached the house. Tawhaki ran in and stood before his wife. She knew him now and sprang to meet him. They held each other's hands and showed their joy so plainly that the fairies could not bear to part them. "He shall stay," they agreed. They gave him fairy power so that he can never die. Today he lives in happiness with his fairy wife. So powerful has he grown in magic that men, hearing his footsteps on the floor of Skyland, call them thunder. And when he lifts his arms, lightning flashes from his armpits. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a pretty powerful dude who did what he needed to do to get them yams on yams on yams. So cool for him. Thank you very much. Don't forget to head over to thecoachman.com. And if you type in the Coachman, you'll definitely have to have th3coachman.com. And you can listen to all these episodes over there. And also, why don't you drop me an email so that we can get to know each other better. And maybe you can even make some requests. So until then, and until next time, take care. And I'll see you soon.